Remarkable.
Shit. Nah. Love the royal priesthood. Mark the Buddha. Sainthood the madman. Killer priest. Fourth chambers, full Fuji. This beat sound like something I wear. You dig? Yo, hold on my people, why you walking around like you equal? They wrote you in as 3/5, what we gon' do about this? Talk too much, you end up like Jimi Hendrix in 27 Club. You want that knowledge, well I'm the plug. Knowledge itself is the drug, and I keep dropping the nugs. Culture pushing, wisdom spitting, pimping simpletons into listening. Yawning while you spewing fiction. I can feel the tensions in your intentions. I wonder if that's Johnson heaven. If God is white, why he write that bronze of the sun? They give us reparations, that's when the apocalypse begun. Yeah. Red rhyme, okay. Yeah. Red rhyme, better rhyme. Grab your guns, daughters and sons. Wasn't long ago when they had us hung. Blood on the leaves, frontal crumbled in between. Exhale for my ancestors that prevailed. We inhale, so we inhale, dodging death every day. Just happy I'm here to tell the tale. Meanwhile, y'all with the pigs and them tattletales. I'ma just be a scientist if it all fails. Mixing chemicals like a cocktail. My trees smell like it's from the tropical. So not for sale, never settle. Follow the tears on the trail. Nah.
That whole African American thing is to omit, you see, the indigenous black man of this particular land. When we brought the African American term, we cut out all of the Caribbean, all of South America, all of Latin America. And this is another way to reclassify you see what I'm saying, outside of power.
We got blacks, whites, brown and yellow. We got red, those with dreads found from the ghetto. We got bullet-led and misled, the smile of the devil. On the face of the moon, heart pound like a rebel. Hear the sound on the metal. War in Iraq, 6 feet underground with the shovel. All over the map, the Bible said signs of the time. The Torah says that's your God, not mine. The Holy Quran says it's all Allah's design. The Buddhist says let's meet at the shrine. Thou shalt not eat of the swine. That you is the cut, sure as blue as the blood. Killer priests in the temple, Nehru is the love.
That's a political move that was put in by the government to break you down to this subclass, you see, and not be a world community. So to call you an African American is to disconnect you from that global community and that great diaspora that we were talking about. So that's a political move. Yes, come on. The average Native American was this brother's complexion at the turn of the century. Now when you say Native American, it's some white person with a feather in his hair.
All right. Greetings, family. And thank you for joining us once again for this edition of New Day Resurrection and Liberation. This is our Black August edition, as well as the last day for our celebration of the great ancestor, Saint Queen of the Moor Week. All right, so much appreciated, and thank you for joining us for this edition of New Day Resurrection and Liberation.
All right.
With that being said, I'm your co-host and moderator for this evening, Brother Lumumba Uncaged, and of course, I have with me the host with the most, Sister Empress Che.
Yes. Greetings, family. So, as Brother Lumumba indicated, tonight is our last kind of salute and insights into Saint Queen Mother Moor. And so tonight we're going to also share with you what some of the next steps are. So, we don't just talk about our people, our great ancestors, our freedom fighters. We also look at what it is we need to do and will be doing that honors them as it pertains to the work that they were doing and some of the things that they were looking to do, wanted us to do. So we're going to go over some of that tonight. Well, we've been playing a couple of the clips from Saint Queen Mother Moor, and with that, heard in her own words some of the things that she was working on doing, not, of course, reparations, but there were other things that she was also involved in, including political prisoner work. And so, as Brother Lumumba indicated, this is the first day of Black August. And so we're going to tonight talk more about the history of Black August and also what that means to us. Now, there's also some areas that we're going to focus on in terms of the issue of political prisoners, for example. You know, some of the things that I've learned over the years as it pertains to what's known as the movement or the struggle. So we now know there's different levels, different degrees, and so forth and so on, even different concepts, different modalities. But one thing that I have found to be one of the strongest elements in particularly what's known as Black liberation aspect of struggle is the fight for the freedom of our political prisoners. So now, in this day and age, as we move forward in developing these things that we call struggle or justice reform and things of that nature, I find it necessary to also begin to kind of define or redefine what some of that is, because some of it has become very ambiguous, confusing, and even worse. So what we're going to be doing tonight in the context of Saint Queen Mother Moore and also Black August, we're going to bring a little clarity. What is Black August? Why is it? And who are the entities that tend to embrace it? So we're going to kind of go more into that so that, you know, we can have a better idea and clarification on kind of who and what some people are. Now, I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure the NAACP does not embrace Black August. More than likely, the Action Network doesn't embrace Black August. And I'm pointing that out for a reason. So we'll go more into that a little later on. Okay, so in the meantime, I want to tell you a little bit about what's going to be happening tonight. We are going to talk with one of my sisters, and it's really wonderful to have her joining us tonight, Sister Basima Muhammad Bey, and she is formerly the 4th President General of the UNIA, the parent body of the UNIA. And she has worked consistently for at least 2 decades, I believe, with the Black Cross nurses of the UNIA. So she's going to be joining us. But with her, we're going to also talk about, again, the spirit of Queen Mother Moore in the context of real Black woman sisterhood, matriarchalhood, warriorhood. We're going to talk about that because these are some of the things that Queen Mother Moore represented and why we're not seeing as much of it today, at least in the context of St. Queen Mother Moore and others. Okay. And so these are the things that we're now raising up and bringing forward. And we want folks to know that that's what's getting ready to happen. So before we go get ready to bring Sister Basima in, Brother Muma, could you share with the family a little bit about last night's conversation with Brother Playfell Benjamin?
Indeed. Very rigorous and, passionate conversation and debate that we were having with our brother Benjamin. Talking about and discussing and really breaking down and analyzing the different aspects pertaining to indoctrination, education, digging into some of the history of Queen Mother Moore, Saint Queen Mother Moore, with that and, our great ancestor and some of her contributions into the reparations movements. And our brother Benjamin was giving some of his experiences and some of the tutelage that he had received himself from the great saint ancestor Queen Mother Moore. But also, we got into aspects of, within that same vein, what she was describing as Negroism, right? And the concepts of de-Negroizing ourselves. And so that, was infused in our conversation as it pertained to intellectualism, all right, and education versus indoctrination and empowerment, or shall we say, education for liberation. Okay, so we had a very uh, very charged conversation as it pertains to that subject matter, getting into some of the aspects of the contributions and the contrast of such individuals such as W.E.B., our ancestor W.E.B. Du Bois, Booker T. Washington, Marcus Garvey, amongst others. So, very, very interesting and engaging conversation, educational as well, and informational, to just see some of the dynamics of those different dichotomies and how they weighed against one another, and our brother's perspective on some of those ideologies, as he himself totes as an independent intellectual. All right, and so very, very, very interesting. If you have the opportunity, definitely go back and check out some of that information and some of those perspectives, so you can get some more insight and perhaps be able to get a more well-rounded idea and concept of some of these great thinkers and doers, right? So tremendous wealth of information coming from Brother Benjamin, from his experiences and some of his tutelage and knowledge base as well, as far as studying and being able to provide essays and so on and so forth, that he's able to disseminate to the masses of people. But very, very interesting because of course we like to challenge one another, in our ideals and concepts and how that weighs into the realities of today. So check that out if you haven't gotten the opportunity to yet, and tap in and let us know. Get some information, put it in the comments. All right, Sister Empress, what was your take? What was your perspective on yesterday's conversation?
Well, I tell you, I learned a lot actually.
Indeed, as did I. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, in ways it also pointed out or made it even clearer some things I was thinking. It just kind of verified it. And one of the issues that we're going to talk more about is class struggle. Or class differences, or whatever you want to call it, because that's a very serious thing. And now I'm realizing one of the reasons why we have not advanced to the degree that we should have. And some of that is because there's some kind of innate set in things in terms of our movements and ideals and concepts that most may not be aware of. And so as a result, grassroots is not embraced or appreciated except for certain things, whereas so-called intellectuals are celebrated, you see. And that's a problem. It's a big problem.
Indeed. Something we definitely had to wrestle with. Yeah, we definitely talked about elitism, classism, and those types of concepts, and how, like you said, how they weigh in our organizational structures and communion.
Yeah, and see, the thing that most don't realize, Brother Lumumba, is this is where the gatekeeping gets in. And we're going to talk more about that on Ethereal. And by the way, please check your email because the clip for Black August, you should be there. But again, this is how gatekeeping has been able to be kept in place, meaning these things that are relevant to class and position and things of that nature. Grassroots organizers are appreciated, but definitely, as I said before, not celebrated. And what I mean by that is they're essential in the things that have to happen to make things happen. But it is the historians, the scholars, and others that tend to get the most kind of notoriety. And I don't even want to use the word notoriety. I'm embracing. Okay. Whereas organizers tend to be taken for granted. So unless you are learned, or you have a degree, or you're in the literary world, or something of that nature, what you're doing is not really considered to be as relevant, or as some, and in some cases, or as significant, or as important. And so these are underlining things that literally exist without necessarily talking about it, but it's there. And as a result, it's kind of, I think, just dissipating the overall energy, synergy of struggle, of movement, of liberation. It's just there festering, and so it gets worse and worse and worse. And so people are kind of raised up or upheld in a certain manner, while the masses, or the people who are boots on the ground or doing grunt work, they're not given all that.
Indeed. So yeah, definitely an important topic and subject matter that we have to wrestle with and come to terms with. If we're really talking about progressing, if we're really talking about moving forward and elevating this movement. Absolutely.
Okay, well, listen, we're still waiting for Sister Basima to check in. So in the meantime, let's talk a bit about Black August. Okay. And family, again, this is August the 1st. And so there are really quite a few days in August that are highlighted. And this is also one of the things that have become essential when we talk about Black August. But the history, we're going to make sure you know the history. And then, of course, over the years, it has developed more so, or it has developed in other ways. As I said, people put focus on some of the other days in August that are significant to in our history and also to our movements and struggles. So Black August has become, of course, for the most part, I guess more importantly, a focus on the issue of prisons, the necessity for those prisons to be, some say reformed, others say abolished, but also, of course, political prisoners. And so tonight we're going to talk about all of those things and then some. The fact that right now we strongly believe that the incarceration or the adjudication, shall I say, of our youth, young adults, that's really from what we're seeing, that's getting ready to be increased quite a bit nationwide. Okay. And so we see the writing on the wall, as you have probably heard during the past year, that large number of young folk have been meeting at different places, malls and other kinds of things in large numbers, and in some instances creating a bit of havoc or what have you. And best believe this system, this government, is planning accordingly and have been planning accordingly. And actually, some of that stuff is really kind of is a part of social engineering for it to even happen in the first place. So we're going to talk a little more about that, because we would be negligent if we did not examine it and then look at what it is we're going to do about it, or at least to some degree make some effort to do about it. So we're going to talk about that a little later on as we proceed. But let's look at a clip right now that gives us a little bit of insight into what is Black August and why do we observe it and embrace it and engage in it. Okay. And so let's do that. Black August.
All right. Yes, indeed. And that being said, let me jump over really quickly and shift gears because I want to knock out this um, housekeeping. All right, get that out the way. All right. So with that being said, let me knock that out, and then I'll get right to the clip for this evening and get things started off with some preliminary history on Black August. All right. So with that being said, fair use notice. Okay, this is in conjunction with Title 17 USC Section 107. Materials on this channel are utilized for educational and informational purposes. All right, so fair use notice. All right, let me continue. All right, got one more piece, and this is a disclaimer. All right, the views and opinions expressed in the media or comments on this channel are those of the speaker or the authors and do not necessarily reflect or represent the views and opinions held by this channel broadcaster. Due to the social nature of this broadcasting channel, videos may contain content copyrighted by another entity or person. This channel owner claims no copyright to said content. The broadcaster of this channel cannot be held accountable for the copyrighted content. The broadcaster of this channel is a messenger or share of information and strives to verify but cannot warrant the accuracy of copyrights or completeness of the information on this channel. If you have a complaint about something or find your content is being used incorrectly, please contact the broadcaster prior to making a copyright claim. Any infringement was not done on purpose and will be rectified to all parties' satisfaction. All right, give thanks. Let me stop my screen share there. Okay. All right. So with that being said, let me come to the first clip for this evening and get into a little bit of history on Black August. All right, let me share my screen one more again. Okay, here we go. All right, so coming up. There it is. Okay, let's get into it.
Black August is a time where those of us who are committed to the liberation of all Black people make sacrifices in honor of those great sacrifices that were made for us. August holds so much history of Black struggle. It is the beginning of the Haitian Revolution. It is the beginning of Nat Turner's rebellion. It is the month in where Jonathan and George Jackson passed away. And I can go on and on for every single day in the month of August, how it connects back to Black liberation. Black August is a time for us to recommit to the struggle, recommit to our people. Every man and woman who has ever taken up arms, who has ever been part by COINTELPRO, and who have been spending the last 4 to 5 decades behind the walls, this is our time to reconnect back with them and do everything we can to bring our people home. There is no liberation struggle in the history of the world that has ever succeeded by leaving its people behind.
All right, all right. A quick briefing, family, on Black August. All right, let me stop my screen share there. Okay. Shout out to the family. All right, tapping in on our YouTube Live. All right, shout out to Sister Baker, Sister Robita, as well as Sister J. Renee. All right, give thanks for joining us this evening. All right, tapping in on our YouTube Live. As well as shout out, we got Sister Shayla in the building as well. All right, right here in the yard. Appreciate everybody for tapping in. All right, let me come back over to Sister Empress.
All right, Brother Moon. We're going to play one more clip shortly, but I want to just say to folk that again, this entire month we're going to be focusing on what's known as Black August, and what does that mean, and how do other people observe it or embrace it. So we're going to give you a little insight into that a little later on. But I also want to go back to the Queen Mother Mora piece. Brother Moon, would you, if you have it available, if not, then we'll wait. The announcement that that you put in, made attention to, that is dealing with one of the things that we're going to be doing on August the 23rd in commemoration of the International Day for the remembrance of slavery and its abolition. So on that day, of course, many should know by now that we plan to do a special salute, and we call it Message from the Grassroots. and beyond. And y'all kind of know that's connected to Brother Malcolm, right? Message to the grassroots. But anyway, so on August the 23rd, we're going to do a message from the grassroots and beyond. And it's going to be specifically geared to the 123 countries that, of course, voted on March the 25th of this year, citing the transatlantic slave trade as the gravest crime against humanity. Well, again, things are happening. And as you heard the other evening, in fact, was it last night that we had? Yeah, we did. It was last night we had Sister Colette from D12 with us. And of course, they talked about there was a recent meeting in Ghana as a follow-up for the session, right? That was in reference to March the 25th. So, and that's wonderful. And we did get somewhat of a briefing. But see, here again is the problem. So this session was held in Ghana, where, I mean, who was attending that? I mean, we know that different people were attending it. But my point is, the grassroots folk, you know, and I'm not even talking about the grassroots folk in general. I'm talking about the grassroots folk who actually do reparations work. They didn't know nothing about that. They don't know anything about that meeting. You see, or I'll say many did not. Okay. And so, you know, this is a problem. And so who was going to make sure that the various groups and organizations, activists, whatever, was going to get that information? You know, what happened at the meeting? What you know, what was accomplished? You know, whatever. Is there any recordings, etc.? So this is why our move on August the 23rd is going to make certain that some of our entities that we say are grassroots are literally in, you know, they're in the room, they're at the table, see, because, you know, this has been going on too long, where secondhand information is in that, and sometimes not even second, sometimes even not even third, sometimes not even fourth hand information is being provided. And so we have to create the mechanisms that's going to ensure that for the future, that the masses of our people, our folks in our communities, are able to get information, that it's there. And if they choose to be able to get it or what have you, it's there, you see. So August 23rd, we do the public salute to the 123 countries. Now, for those who are interested in being a part of that salute, or part, we call it the note of thanks and appreciation. You can have your name added on. And this is going to go to those 123 countries, the name of your group, your organization, or your own name, your business. If you want that on the note/letter of appreciation, thanks and appreciation, then let us know, and we'll make sure that this happens. We're hoping that folks will donate, because again, we have to, you know, make certain that we can cover all these costs. So we'll give you more information about that as we move forward. But again, it's very important that our people are made abreast of what's going on now with this, because if not, there's going to be representation there that is not necessarily going to be in the best interest of the masses. So I'm just going to leave it at that for right now. But I would strongly suggest that folks really, you know, kind of get in tune to what's getting ready to happen. What are your thoughts, Brother Lumumba? I'm not hearing you. Not hearing you. Nope.
All right. Yep.
Okay.
Definitely imperative, you know, that more than a few are informed about what's going on with movement work. The masses of our people are the ones that are actually going to be doing the work. All right. So if it's only a selective few that have the information and it's not being disseminated amongst the masses, then, of course, they won't be able to engage. And without the power of the people, without the masses of the people, there is essentially no movement. All right. So
Well,
with movement comes action. Right.
Right. Generally, yeah. But let me share with you how, from at least from a historical perspective, how this ends up working. So let's say that for whatever reason, someone comes in and wants to do something in the context of repair, right? Let's say, for example, it's a corporation, just, wild thought, but it's a corporation, and they want to give a couple of $1 million to, to be supportive or to, play their role or whatever, right? Now, so say they select one of the organizations that is involved in reparations, right? Now, because they're not going to give it to all the groups. Historically, that's not how that happens. They'll select.
I can't leave for work until I find my phone.
Sorry about that. They'll select the group that they'll give it to, right? So now, that group or the heads of that group is going to disseminate to within their collective. And so a part of that, of course, more than likely is going to be used for education or training or whatever. So my point is, they will put to work the people in their particular group. You see? So these are some of the things that are going to happen prior to the big stuff or the other stuff. These are some things going to happen because technically it's already happening now in certain locations. And these are some of the reports and information that most won't get. But some things are happening right now.
Sure.
Right? And so this is only going to increase in certain ways. And so my point is, who's representing you?
Right.
You see? And that's why if we don't have some real whatever in this thing, it will appear, some will make it appear that they're representing the masses. And maybe just in the context of, we're going to do, some kind of campaign, or we'll do, some town hall meeting or whatever. See? And this is what is going to be going on. The quality and the necessity for there to be in-depth kinds of things, that's not where it's going to be at. You see, and we already know it because it's already happening. So this is why it's very important. Robert, let me check your email, please. This is why it's very important that folks really begin to comprehend some of what's going on. And again, also big ups to our sisters and extended family that are tuning in tonight. We got a lot of stuff that we're getting ready to share with you for this month coming up. So get ready, y'all. Okay, again, before we go to, I hope that Sister Basima is going to be checking in. I did call her and she didn't pick up, so hope everything is okay. But anyway, we're going to kind of get into some of those things tonight. And Brother Moon, when you get the chance, pull up the announcement so that people can kind of know what's getting ready to happen on the 23rd, in addition to the message from the grassroots to the 123 countries. And again, that's going to be a press conference at the African Burial Grounds. And then that evening, there will be a special forum, and we'll reveal that a little later, because that's not going to be open to just everyone at this time. because again, there's some security things that we have to deal with because we are expecting some of the representatives from a couple of the countries. Okay.
Indeed, indeed. All right. Did you want me to share that on the screen as far as the?
Well, can we go to the clip first?
Okay.
There's another clip for Black August, just again to kind of give folks a little more insight into Black August. And we're going to be bringing on a few people, by the way. Brother Jalil Montecune will be joining us on August the 5th, I believe it is. I think it's the 5th and the 10th for this month's Black Poli-Sci 101. And of course, along with that, we'll be talking about the issues of political prisoners, because he definitely was one for almost 50 years. So he's going to do 2 sessions with us that will focus on Black liberation, because he was, of course, a member of the Black Liberation Army. And so we're going to talk about Black liberation in the context of action, not just, theory conversation. We're going to get history about it. And, where do we go from here? And again, we'll talk with him about political prisoners as well. The work that he's doing with his group, Jericho, and also, I think, the People's Senate, and so forth. Okay, so let's just hear a little more about Black August.
All right, yes, indeed.
Peace and Black Power, mighty Africans. This is Makonnen Tendaji, Political Education Director for the African Black Coalition. Today, we are going to be discussing Black August, its history, its significance, and what inspirations we can gather from it and apply them in our revolutionary organizing work today. So first, what is Black August? According to our brother Sundiata Tate, a member of the San Quentin Six, Black August is a time to embrace the principles of unity, self-sacrifice, political education, physical training, and resistance. And according to our brother Mumia Abu Jamal, Black August is a month of divine meaning, of repression and radical resistance, of injustice and divine justice, of righteous rebellion, of individual and collective efforts to free the slaves and break the chains that bind us. These are 2 very profound answers given to this question of what is Black August, and it is the position of the African Black Coalition that Black August is not a mere call for celebration. It is not simply something that we can recognize and half-heartedly celebrate or attribute a simple honor to. This is really a time of critical study of, as Sundiata Tate said, right, of self-sacrifice and discipline. As Mumia Abu Jamal says here, of divine justice, of righteous rebellion. Black August is a very serious time of the year, and we are serious about our people, of course, every day of the year, and that seriousness is amplified in Black August. And Amos Wilson talks about how the study of our history must be more than the mere pumping of our self-esteem and our pride. It must go beyond simple celebration. Now, this isn't to say that celebration is a negative thing or, isn't constructive. Of course, we thrive off of celebration and emotional fanfare and what have you. Those things have their place, just as serious and critical reflection and sacrifice and discipline have their place. So Black August is that time of the year. So on to the origin. So Black August originated in California prisons in 1979 and is historically rooted in the resistance of African Black brothers in those prisons. And the purpose of this month is to honor and commemorate the lives and deaths of several fallen freedom fighters: Jonathan Jackson, George Jackson, W.L. Nolan, James McClain, and Katari Golden, to name a few. And the overarching purpose of Black August is to educate our people about and honor the history and actions of continued resistance of African Black peoples to oppression, colonization, and slavery in the US and throughout the diaspora, with particular emphasis on freedom fighters and historical acts of resistance. So for those of us who are watching this and are curious about the purpose of Black August, the answer is right here, right? We are engaging in critical study and education of not only the history of our people, but the history of resistance among our people, not just here in the US or solely on the continent, but all throughout the globe, all throughout the diaspora. So on the notion of self-discipline and self-sacrifice, to honor these fallen soldiers and the revolutionary vision and principles they embodied, brothers throughout the prison camps of California united together to continue the revolutionary work. These fallen soldiers being the following that were mentioned right here. The brothers and their family members, friends, and supporters who participated in the collective founding of Black August wore black armbands on their left arm and studied revolutionary works, particularly those of Comrade George Jackson. And during the month of August, the brothers did not listen to the radio or watch television. The tradition of fasting, studying, and education during Black August was developed to help instill self-discipline amongst its observers. The fast is also intended to serve as a constant reminder of the sacrifices of our fallen freedom fighters and the ongoing oppression of our people. So again, to reiterate, Black August as a month, Black August as a topic is not one in which we decide, hey, happy Black August, let's throw a barbecue, or hey, happy Black August, let's throw a party. If anything, it's the exact opposite. We are fasting, we are studying, we are educating ourselves individually and collectively. That's how we properly observe Black August. The commemorative fast is from sunrise to sunset, generally from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. The fast includes refraining from drinking liquids and eating food of any kind. The meal to break the fast is shared whenever possible among comrades. Other forms of sacrifice are also encouraged to teach self-discipline and self-reflection, such as abstaining from sex or needless consumption, i.e. drug and alcohol use, refraining from listening to the corporate radio and watching corporate television. People are also encouraged to refrain from patronizing and using corporate businesses, gas stations, department stores, supermarkets, and grocery stores. Again, this is a time of self-sacrifice, of self-discipline, right? Of being able to abstain and refrain ourselves in ways that we may not think about very often. And Black August, though it has its origins in the late 1970s, has undergone an evolution in terms of how it is observed, right? So early on, the Black August practice and tradition also observed not only the sacrifices of the brothers in California's concentration camps, AKA prisons, but to commemorate the acts of rebellion and resistance that occurred within those camps and by other Black/New African prisoners, prisoners of war, and freedom fighters. Within the first years of Black August, the sacrifices and struggles of our ancestors against white supremacy, colonialism, and imperialism were also included in the observation. It must be clear that the purpose of Black August, as created by the founders, was not to celebrate, but to observe by individual and collective fasting, studying, educating, and community work, as well as political and cultural edutainment. Again, this is not to degrade or downplay celebration, right? Festive gathering. Those things have their proper place. We just need to be sure we keep them in their proper place, and that along with that proper place, there's also the proper place for fasting, for studying, for really critically reflecting on both ourselves as individuals, as well as African Black people as a mass of people, our rich and complex history. Black August is a time to engage in self-affirming action to advance our struggle for self-determination and national liberation, and to commemorate actions of resistance, revolution, and rebellion while promoting an understanding and awareness of active and proactive acts of resistance. During Black August, the community is encouraged to join in the observation and commemoration. Not only are the actions of self-discipline suggested, but also community members and community organizations are encouraged to come together, study, and educate one another about resistance and liberation, past and present, through studying, discussion, reading, DVD sharing, cultural edutainment, exercising, training, and breaking fast together. Black August study groups are encouraged. It is suggested to write and or visit someone in prison to fundraise for and donate to the prisoners, political prisoners, and prisoners of war. So on to some significant events that have occurred during the month of August, and these events contribute to the reasons why we observe Black August. So we have the arrival of the first enslaved Africans to Jamestown, Virginia in August of 1619. We have the start of the Great Haitian Revolution in August 1791, Gabriel Prosser's Rebellion of August 30th, 1800, the Nat Turner Rebellion on August 21st, 1831, the call for a general strike by enslaved New Africans by Henry Highland Garnett on the 22nd of August, 1843. You have the initiation of the major network that conducted the Underground Railroad on August 2nd, 1850. You have the March on Washington on August 28th, 1963. You have the Watts Rebellion of August 1965. You have the defense of the provisional government of the Republic of New Africa from an FBI assault in Mississippi on August 18th, 1971. And then you have the bombing of the Move family by Philadelphia police on August 8th, 1978. Again, African Black people have the richest, most complex history of any people anywhere on the face of the earth, period, point blank. And you can look at the years of these events. So, and the reason why I'm emphasizing the years and the time span of just the events in the month of August, right? The reason why we emphasize this is to ensure we are not limiting the conceptualization of Black history to the 1960s. Oh, I want to study Black history. Yeah, let me read this book on the Black Panther Party. Or, yeah, the Civil Rights Movement, Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X. That is a microscopic representation of African Black resistance, of African Black struggle, right? Of African Black organizing, all the way back to before we arrived, right? On the shores of this hellish place, right? We have been organizing, we have been rebelling, we have been fighting and bleeding and dying for our freedom and for our liberation. So this is to help get the point across, right? That we are not studying Black history and only going as far back as the 1960s. There's so much more beyond that. So what you can do during this month of Black August, right? You can, so to observe and commemorate Black August, each individual is encouraged to drink only water for a suggested prolonged period, or if really disciplined, until after sunset from the 1st until the 31st. The suggested hours are from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eat only one meal a day after the sun sets. Work out an exercise routine for every day, either individually or in groups. Do not use any drugs, mind-altering herbs, or alcoholic beverages during the entire month. Do not go to any corporate store for anything other than medical or health-related items. Do not patronize fast food establishments or vendors. Eat healthy, natural, and nutritious foods and meals. Observe Black August through educational study groups, events, and commemorations. Again, celebration, festive gathering, joyous organizing have their place. And Black August is not intended to, disparage those who engage in those kinds of activities, right? Or any of the activities on this list here. What Black August is the time for us as African Black people to be able to have the discipline, right? To refrain, the discipline to abstain from some of the things that we may engage in that may not be the most healthy things for us as people, right? In our social, emotional, mental, right, physical development. Some of the things that we engage in do not benefit that development, right? And this isn't, again, to call out or to judge any of our people, right? None of us are perfect. We would just like to recognize Black August as the prime time for us to break those bad habits, right? To start organizing, to start exercising, all of these different things, right? To be more intentional about reading, to start studying. All of these very, very critical things can be started right now during this month of August. So now on to some of the pioneers of Black August and the reasons why it is observed and honored today. So first and foremost, of course, you have George Jackson, the Black militant leader who had received heightened attention in the prison system after being convicted in 1961 for a $70 robbery. It was an alleged robbery of a gas station. And he was sentenced to a 1 year to life sentence at the age of 18 years old. This was after several stints in the California Youth Authority as a juvenile, but an indeterminate sentence was at that time cruel and unusual punishment, and it is no longer in effect. During his incarceration in the California Department of Corrections facility in Soledad, George got involved in the budding revolutionary movement when he became friends with W.L. Nolan, a member of the Black Panther Party, who in turn introduced George to literature from Mao Zedong and Karl Marx, and he began to read about communist ways and ideologies. On August 21st, 1971, our brother George Jackson was assassinated by the guards of San Quentin prison. This assassination was a deliberate move on behalf of the US government to eliminate the revolutionary leadership of George Jackson. In the midst of the government's setup orchestrated to murder George, 3 prison guards were killed in a counter-rebellion. Then you also have Qatari Gaulden. Qatari was a prominent leader of the Black guerrilla family. After George Jackson was assassinated, he was a leading force in the formation of Black August, particularly its historical and ideological foundations. Qatari, like many of the unnamed freedom fighters of the BGF, Black guerrilla family, and the revolutionary prison movement of the 1970s, was murdered at San Quentin prison in 1978 to eliminate his leadership and destroy the resistance movement. Ashe to our brother. Then we have Jonathan Jackson. On August 7th, 1970, at the age of 17, Jonathan Peter Jackson took 3 guns registered to his mentor and confidant, Angela Davis, into the Marion County Hall of Justice, where Judge Harold Haley was presiding over the trial of San Quentin inmate James McClain. He then drew weapons from his satchel, and with the assistance of McClain and Black Panther inmates Russell McGee and William A. Christmas, took Judge Haley, Deputy District Attorney Gary Thomas, and 3 female jurors hostage. And as a result of this county takeover, our brother Jonathan Jackson lost his life in the subsequent police pursuit that followed, right, at the age of 17 years old again. Then we have Russell McGee. He is the longest held political prisoner in the United States, having been locked up since 1963. Politicized in prison, he later participated in the Marion County Courthouse Rebellion, the attempted liberation of political prisoner George Jackson. He pled guilty to the charge of aggravated kidnapping for his part in the assault. In return for his plea, the Attorney General asked the court to dismiss the charge of murder, McGee being the shooter of Judge Haley. He later attempted unsuccessfully to withdraw his plea and was sentenced in 1975 to life in prison. He has lost numerous bids for parole. He has also worked tirelessly as a jailhouse lawyer, working on his own case and helping many other prisoners win their freedom. So our brother is locked up right now as we speak, as you watch this video. Again, when we study our history, we need to be clear that those of our people who have engaged in struggle and have ultimately ended up suffering the consequences or paying the price, so to speak, are still alive today. So the idea that studying our history is this long ago, far away thing to do is incorrect. Our history of struggle, of radical resistance and righteous rebellion is very much current and is very much critical and important for us to study today, because it did not happen that long ago. Those of our people who have engaged in the struggle during Black August, right, in the formation of it as a time of commemoration, are still living to this day. He had been in LA, Russell McGee, for 6 months when he and his cousin Leroy got in a fight over a $10 bag of marijuana. In court, the two ended up with trumped up charges of kidnapping and robbery, and he was given life in prison. While in prison, he began learning the long and rich history of Black liberation. He adopted the middle name of Sink after the enslaved African who led the takeover of the slave ship Amistad, which eventually led to the freedom of all the slaves on board. He began petitioning his unjust sentence to no avail. Although critically wounded on August 7, 1970, he was the sole survivor among the 4 brave Black men who conducted the courthouse slave rebellion, leaving him to be charged with everything they could throw at him. These are the sources to all of the information that you were just presented with. Again, we wanted to do just a basic fundamental discussion on Black August, right? What it is, what you can do to participate, to observe, right? Giving you the names and the backgrounds of some of the pioneers of it. Again, to reiterate, the study of our people, the study of our struggle, is a thing that needs to be taken very, very seriously. And while there is the proper time and place for celebration and for festive gathering, there needs to be also the proper time and place for serious study, for serious organizing and demonstrations of self-discipline and self-sacrifice. None of the brothers that were presented here today were lacking, right, in the areas of self-discipline or self-sacrifice. You will find that the mightiest and the most revolutionary of our ancestors were also the most disciplined and the most thorough in their study of our people. So by no means will we celebrate, right, or festively gather our way out of our conditions and towards our liberation. And we are not here to disparage, right, or degrade those of our people who may sum up, right, the way to organize our people as only, right, celebrating and festively gathering. What we are doing here is presenting the information to help alter, right, that misperception onto the correct and balanced perception of there's a time and place for celebration, just as there's a time and place for serious study and for self-sacrifice. So hopefully you learned something valuable from this presentation on what Black August is and how you can participate. If you would like more information, you can tune in to our website, www.africanblackcoalition.org. Peace and Black Power. Peace.
All right.
Right.
So that gave folk a kind of, I think a pretty good overview and insight into the history and some of the principles and concepts of Black August. Now, of course, I wouldn't expect everyone to kind of follow all of those things, because it does require some time, some discipline, and so forth. But these were some of the things that people were, in fact, doing when Black August started. And so, again, what I suggest for folk is to just select the things that you think you can do. Based on some of the things that he made mention of, that the brother made mention of, write to a political prisoner or someone in prison, contribute to a political prisoner campaign, or, there's a litany of things that people can do. So, again, select what you feel is conducive for you, but at least do something. Even if you just fast for one day, or if not fast, just decide, I'm not going to do this today in the spirit of Black August. That kind of energy is always helpful. Okay, so again, we're not suggesting that you got to follow all of what he said or whatever. No, we just give you some information because some of it is historic. It's from a historical perspective. This is what cadres were doing. I mean, brothers and sisters literally had study groups and literally did the kinds of things that this brother talked about. They're not doing it much today, but this is some of the stuff that people actually did do on a regular basis with commitment. But again, we're in a different time. We know that. So I'm just saying, select things that might be feasible for you. Okay, what are your thoughts, Brother Lumumba?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That was I think a well-rounded, throughout overview of the concepts, the ideals, and some of the spirit and energy behind Black August.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think that was an excellent way for people to get some additional insight and to see how they themselves can participate, within their capacity. In celebration of Black August.
Absolutely. With that said, check your email, and we're going to hear one of the latest commentaries from a political prisoner. And of course, we're talking about none other than Mumia Abu Jamal. Before we go to the clip, we want to take this time to send our condolences to the family, friends, loved ones, associates of a sister who worked very closely with Mumia Abu-Jamal and other issues relevant to political prisoners and injustices. And her name is Sister Professor Fernandez. And, you know, it's kind of almost shocking, sort of. I mean, because, I mean, you know, death happens. Needless to say, we know that. But sometimes when it does happen, it can kind of hit you a certain kind of way. And so this sister was very dynamic, very involved. She was a professor at one of the colleges in New York, and worked and did a actual film on Mumia. And so I'll give you the title of that in a few, so that you can look it up, because you can see it online. And I mean, just an incredible sister in terms of doing the work to really fight. And she created something called Bring Mumia Home. And so again, we want to give our condolences and also support to the family and loved ones of Sister Johanna Fernandez.
Indeed,
Okay.
indeed. Salute to the sister.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's hear from Brother Mumia.
All right. Let me share that.
And I'm sure he'll be doing something, you know, on this. I know that he will. But you know, this just happened like yesterday, so he hasn't had a chance to do a commentary yet. But this is one of his latest ones.
The most important thing you can share, the North Star you refer to, is history. Real history teaches you why today is the way it is today. Malcolm X used to say, of all our studies, history best rewards our research. When he learned about history, it transformed him. The history of Black people in America opened his head and expanded his mind. It remade him. It made him into one of the greatest Black leaders of the 20th century. That's the power of history. The power of history is the power of how to see the world today as it is, not as you are told it is. I also think about Frantz Fanon, speaking of Algeria. They wanted not only to take over the people of Algeria, the land of Algeria, they wanted to reach back and destroy the history of the people of Algeria. What about Steve Biko? The racist government in South Africa feared him and killed him because they believed that he would one day be the president in South Africa. There's another book, one closer to home, a remarkable work of history by a master historian named Robin D.G. Kelly. His book, Hammer and Hoe, about the 1930s, when a group was working with workers in Alabama who were agricultural workers and miners who wanted a few pennies more to help take care of their families. And in response, they got the repression of groups like the Knights of the White Camellia, the Ku Klux Klan, and other groups who assisted police and really who assisted the landowners, right? I was blown away when I read it, because the state does not want people to awaken from their slumber. History matters because it explains why the world is the way it is today. And there lies the key for changing it. I extend my deepest appreciation and, more importantly, liberatory solidarity from the bowels of a prison cell in Pennsylvania, serving the 44th year of a death by incarceration sentence, to the cohorts of the Galaxy Gibbs family, I thank you for your work. With love, not fear. This is Mumia Abu Jamal.
All right. Wow.
Indeed, indeed. Excellent commentary, as usual, per usual, from our brother Mumia Abu Jamal. Just such a it's incredible to think about it sometimes. That this brother is so active, and is able to share certain concepts and ideas, and be able to express some of that historical context, some of that passion and fervor of the history of our people, coming from behind the wall after 44 years of incarceration. As it says, death by incarceration, a slow and grueling type of breakdown. But, yet and still, our brother Babu Abu Jamal has stood strong and steadfast, against all odds. So, once again, triple salute to our dear brother Babu Mia Abu Jamal.
Ashe, Ashe.
Jamal.
All right. So, okay, still can't get through to our sister, so we're just going to move forward. I do want to remind everyone that since we're talking about prisons and things that are relevant to so-called law enforcement, what we also call sometimes police and governmental terrorism, well, we want to remind everyone that unfortunately this day also marks the day of a police encounter. And that police encounter ended up with the unaliving of a young 23-year-old sister. Her name is Corin Gaines. So today is the actual day. This happened, of course, in 2016. But it was August the 1st, 2016, that the encounter occurred where Corin Gaines' life was taken by police. And for those who are not familiar with what happened, that was a progression, or that started like a whole week or so, and then ultimately, ended up with SWAT and other people and other law enforcement people going to her home, to her dwelling, and again, subsequently, literally shooting her, and also shot her son, by the way. And it's a very interesting kind of case and situation. And again, we're not going to forget what happened. In fact, MWM was, to my knowledge, the only Black women's group that did, a rally and covered that whole thing, from the time that we got it up to the day of the actual situation and then afterwards. So it kind of pointed out how selective our people are when it comes to galvanizing or coming together around certain issues. This particular issue was controversial because she maintained her sovereignty, right? Meaning she knew her rights. And it just started with a traffic ticket, that ultimately, went into some whole other stuff. So again, we're not going to go all in depth into it tonight because I'd rather wait until we get Sister Tawanda Jones with us, because Sister Tawanda, of course, interacted with Corin Gaines' mother over the years and was involved with the situation when it happened as well, and know it pretty well, even a little bit than I think. But the point is, this kind of shows you what can happen and what did happen. Again, this young sister was 23 years of age, and she challenged the police as opposed to just going along with whatever they was talking about. She knew her rights, and she was, letting them know that she knew her rights. And so that didn't play out well. And again, ultimately, she ended up losing her life. And so because she was not, as, shall we say, obedient or conciliatory to what the police was trying to get her to do or whatever in the initial confrontation or the initial interaction, people were kind of reluctant or less prone to deal with the issue that she was gunned down by SWAT. Of all, so this wasn't just a basic kind of, supposedly there was a warrant because she missed traffic court, right? So again, you can look it up and you can see the specifics. We're not going to go all into it now. Her name is Corin Gaines. That's Korryn. Last name Gaines. And she was 23 years of age with a young son. I think he was maybe five at the time, 4 or 5. And he was wounded also, because they just literally shot into the home. Okay, so I just want to give you a little sidebar on that as we talk about prison reform, law enforcement / law or governmental, police and governmental terrorism. All right. With that said, let us go to the August 23rd, because it's kind of connected in the context of crimes against humanity. And so we want folks to know that as we move forward in connecting with the 123 countries, that a part of the We Charge Genocide 21 is also about obtaining justice all across the board. And that, of course, deals with institutions. So a part of our National Black Human Rights Project entails making certain that the various other entities, other than the so-called government entities, but the other either collaborative or connective entities also know that they too must deal with ample repair, our repair. With that said, we're talking about the churches or so-called religious institutions. So, Brother Lumumba, can we go to that statement or that announcement?
Okay, all right. Okay, let me pull that up.
And again, family, this is one of the other things that will be presented at the press conference on August the 23rd in New York. Of course, New York is the location where the United Nations is based. It is its headquarters for the U.S. And so we are going to be in New York to officiate a couple of our campaign / special projects. And one of them is, as you will hear, the announcement will be made in regards to the request to meet with representatives from various religious institutions to examine and further discuss the issues relevant to the transatlantic slave trade and other things that are connected to that, and how that must be repaired, what type of remedies must now be rendered.
All right, let me go ahead and share my screen. again, RIP to our sister, Corinne Gaines. All right, let me share my screen here and get to some of the announcements. Okay. All right, here we are. You can see my screen. Okay, this is the announcement here. The National MWM Million March will issue a public statement for R4J, Repair for Justice remedies to religious institutions involved in the transatlantic slave trade, directly or indirectly, and related human rights violations. This National Black Human Rights BHR R4J Assembly will be a part of this year's MWM Universal Movement's annual observance of the International Day of Remembrance of Slavery and its Abolition. This year will also feature a message from the grassroots, special note of thanks and appreciation to the 123 country members of the United Nations and their groundbreaking vote citing the transatlantic slave trade and chattel slavery as the greatest crime against humanity. We are inviting all interested parties to join the We Start Genocide 21 movement, National Black Human Rights Project, R4J Delegation, on August the 23rd, 2026 in New York for the press conference. And where do we go from here? Village, meetup, forum, and or add your name in the historic special notes of thanks and appreciation. All right, so for additional information there, of course, you can email nationalmwm@aol.com. You can also text 267-636-3802. Again, that's nationalmwm@aol.com. And also you can text 267-636-3802. All right.
All right. Great. Okay, before we go any further, let me see if there's any questions, comments, thoughts.
All right. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Let me come to the yard first. All right, for any questions or comments. We have Sister Shayla with us in the building, as well as Sister Sekhmet. All right, so let me open up the floor for any questions or comments from the family.
And before we do that, Brother Mumba, please check your email, because when we get finished talking with the family, we want to show them something called the Black Manifesto. And again, things that we do, family, is connected to our history. So many are not familiar with various things that are very, very important. There was something issued in 1969 called the Black Manifesto. So after we talk with our family a little bit, we're going to pull it up for you and let you see for yourself. We're the ones, you hear what I'm saying to you? We're the ones we've been waiting for. We're the ones that the ancestors, some of the ancestors have appointed to continue their work. We'll show it to you in a minute. So let's go back to the family.
All right. Once again, I'm open up the floor for any questions or comments, family. Okay. All right. No questions or comments. Okay.
Okay. Well,
for those who are tapping in from our YouTube live, and your comments are being shown as they come in as well. So appreciate all of those tapping in on our lives, and for your participation and engagement. All right, shout out Brother Pollinator.
Okay, Brother Muma, go to your email and let's pull up the Black Manifesto. And this is just a briefing for right now, family. We'll go more into it at another session because we're going to start doing our study group sessions because we want to make sure that those who are interested really have the kind of information and insight to really represent, and if not represent, at least just be more aware and astute of certain things. So, is there anyone that is familiar with the Black Manifesto? Let me ask that question before we start. 1969, introduced by a brother by the name of James Foreman. Is there anyone that is familiar with it? Okay.
All
Okay.
right. Well, at the same time, is there anyone that is not familiar with the Black Manifesto? All right. Let's see if we have any. Okay.
Okay. Well, let's take a look at it. And again, we're going to go more in depth at another time and really break it down for you. But we want to just give you a little highlight of it now.
All right. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. Okay. All right. Okay, here we have it here, fam, so I can blow that up a little bit. Okay, Black Manifesto. Black Manifesto was a 1969 manifesto that demanded $500 million in 2024. That would equate to 3.27 billion in reparations from white churches and synagogues for their participation in the injustices of slavery and segregation committed against African Americans. The manifesto was developed during the National Black Economic Development Conference held in Detroit, Michigan in 1969. American civil rights activist James Foreman presented the first draft of the manifesto on April the 26th, 1969, receiving the support of the conference and a 187-63 vote of delegates. All right, as we highlight some of the demands, the manifesto made the argument that much of America had been built with black slave labor, and churches and synagogues, had implicitly played a role in facilitating that process. Its opening paragraph read, "We the black people assembled in Detroit, Michigan for the National Black Economic Development Conference are fully aware that we have been forced to come together because racist off-white America has exploited our resources, our minds, our bodies, and our labor. For centuries, we have been forced to live as colonized people in the United States, victimized by the most vicious, racist system in the world. We have helped to build the most industrial country in the world." All right. Goes on to also state that the text of the manifesto demanded $500 million in donations from churches and synagogues to be routed to a specific group of organizations, some of which had yet to be formed. The largest demand was for the creation of a $200 million land bank in the American South in order to help other brothers and sisters who had to leave their land because of racist pressure, for people who want to establish cooperative farms. 40 million was to be divided equally among 4 publishing and printing companies serving the black communities of Detroit, Atlanta, Los Angeles, and New York. 4 television networks, meant as an alternative to racist propaganda, were to be established with 10 million each in Detroit, Chicago, Cleveland, and Washington, D.C. 30 million would go to the establishment of a research center into the social problems faced by African Americans, and 130 million was designated to begin a black university in the American South. All right. Foreman presented the manifesto and to the public, on May 4th, 1969, at the New York City's Riverside Church, interrupting a Sunday service to do so. The day earlier, Foreman had requested and been denied permission to speak by the minister, Reverend Dr. Ernest Campbell. Trying to prevent Foreman's speech, Campbell directed the organist to play and also began a silent walkout of congregants. The church obtained a civil restraining order against Foreman the same week. The manifesto was also read out loud on May 4th at the First United Presbyterian Church of San Francisco. It was later published in July 10th, 1969 edition of the New York Review of Books. Outcomes, the manifesto demands were ultimately rejected by most churches and synagogues. A few churches made donations to the organizations mentioned in the manifesto, and several reassessed their process to ensure equal opportunity for people of color. On August 29, 1969, Time wrote that since Foreman first issued his arrogantly worded Black Manifesto in Detroit last April, with an estimated 22,000 equivalent to 193, 149,000 in 2025, has trickled into the coffers of his National Black Economic Development Conference. Foreman demands were regarded as successful, however, as a catalyst in moving churches to examine their consequences. All right, and then there is some references to follow.
All right. So now, go ahead.
Years after the Black Manifesto. All right.
Right. So now, family, 1969. This is the kind of action that was already taken. Now, you had to wonder, why is it that most of us knew nothing about these things? And again, I'm not even talking about in the context of, school or anything like that. I'm not talking about that. I'm really talking about even in later years when we started getting involved in certain kinds of, social justice work or, whatever. I just find it just absolutely amazing that major stuff, I'm not talking about little stuff, major stuff. This was major. Okay. Brother Moon, we got one more that I want folks to hear. So please go to that, to your email for that one, because you are now going to hear an actual testimony that occurred at this particular session. This is an actual recording that you're going to hear by a brother by the name of Kenyatta. Muhammad Kenyatta, by the way. Now, what's interesting is we've talked about this same person previously. His name changed in later years. So I'm going to connect the black dots for you in a few moments because it's very important. Now, last night we spoke with Brother Playthell Benjamin. And he, of course, was one of the key people who was a part of RAM, the Revolutionary Action Movement. And again, for those who are not familiar with these things, I mean, there's so much information now available at your fingertips. RAM was, people know about the Black Panther Party. You should also know about RAM. Believe me, very interesting. And you know how much I love folk from Philly, the real folk, that is, not these fake folk. But RAM kind of grew here in Philly initially. And the brother who was the head of RAM was born and raised in Philly. He's still in Philly. His name was Max Stanford as a student. And then, of course, as he grew and developed, his name became Dr. Muhammad Ahmed. So we're going to talk more. And actually, yesterday was a boring day. But Brother Playthell Benjamin and he are very close even to this day. I believe Brother Ahmed turned 85 yesterday. Right. So anyway, and we'll share a little history about him too, because it's, people talk about gatekeepers and Negropeans and things of that nature. There were a few people who didn't just talk about it. It is said they were positioned to do something about it. So again, we'll share that with you at another time. Okay, one more clip. This again talks about the Black Manifesto. Again, there's no excuses now. Once we bring this information to your attention, there's no excuse for you not to be more familiar, because it's at your fingertips. There's an abundance amount of information. And this is historical stuff here. So again, Black Manifesto, James Foreman. Now, scroll down a bit, Brother Lumumba, because some of this kind of repeats itself from here. But when you scroll down, you're going to see the actual document. This, again, is very important that you will see the actual document that was presented. Okay? And again, you can just Google Black Manifesto and a bunch of stuff will pop up. So you can take a pick, right? Now, this one actually came, I believe, from the Episcopal Church. Right, to show you that it's authentic, it's real. Okay. Now, we can look at this a little closer, but I want you to scroll all the way down to the bottom because I want people to hear some of the testimony. Go down to the bottom. You should see right about there. Yep. Okay. See where it says listen, I think? Yeah.
Your name, please?
My name is Mohammed Kenyatta.
And what is your occupation?
I'm the National Administrative Vice Chairman for the Black Economic Development Conference.
Mohammed, do you really think the Black Manifesto can work?
My viewpoint is that it cannot fail. I think the Black Manifesto cannot fail because it speaks to a historical matter of fact, and it speaks to real needs of Black people. It speaks to the historical matter of fact that Black people have suffered economic exploitation, that slave labor of Black people was a source of capital for the development of America, and that Black people after slavery were further exploited economically. Thus, we have back capital, back pay owed to us collectively by the institutions of this country. Our historical basis is sound. More important, perhaps, though, is the fact that our programs and our analysis speaks to the needs of the Black community, and Black people, rich and poor, clergy, secular people, young and old, are beginning to move around the manifesto. It's becoming a national mass movement. When I say that we can't fail, it's because I think that the Black community cannot and will not fail in its struggle for liberation, of which we are a part, a significant part, but only a part.
Do you feel that there's going to be, and it's possibly a cynical question, but do you feel that there's going to be that much moral change within the church?
No. If I had thought that 6 months ago, or 4 months ago, I've been largely disabused of that notion. What we have found is this, though, and this is real, that there are individuals in the church, especially Black people, Black clergymen in the church, who are serious about their ethics, who are serious about their morality. And morality, ethics, religious convictions, faith in God, belief in brotherhood, transcendent ethics has been a motive force behind individuals and small groups of people. But what we have found is that the only way we can deal effectively with the church is to take that motor force, that moral force, organize it, and then move politically. Mm-hmm. Thus, the Black clergymen within the Episcopal denomination have had to go further than just preaching and praying to the white Episcopalians. They've had to organize a union of Black clergy and laity.
At the special convention of the Episcopal Church, which was held in South Bend, Indiana at Notre Dame, there was a confrontation. Now, was this a spontaneous confrontation or what?
No, the decision by the Black Economic Development Conference to attempt to seize the microphone, to get the platform, to interrupt the proceedings and inject something real and relevant into the discussion, that decision was a labored decision. It was a hard thought out decision. What did happen was that after we made that move, Black clergymen, Black delegates, and a large number of youth delegates and non-delegates were emotionally moved to pull in with us. But we made that decision in as hard-headed a context as we could. I must confess it was hard for us to not disrupt the Bishop Hines on Saturday. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was our emotional
frankly,
feeling.
There were a lot of people expecting it then.
Right. Well, I think that's true that there were a lot of people expecting it. And I wonder about that. I wonder if people were expecting it because they wanted to view that as kind of social entertainment. We're not about confrontation for entertainment's sake.
You mentioned the word there that I've been hearing bandied about, and I use the word bandied in a deliberate sense, and that's this word racism. I find many times if you are in a situation and you do not agree with a person, if he is black or of a minority group, you are labeled a racist. Now, many people tend to take this as an insult. What is your feeling on this? I'd like you, I know we've talked about this before. I want to get it out.
First of all, just offhand, if I were white and someone, disagreed with me and called me a racist, I wouldn't pay it a lot of attention. I'd wonder why he had not pointed out my racism before. Because if I were white, the likelihood is that my mentality would be pretty racist. I mean, racism pervades the mentality of both black and white people.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because I think too many times people get the idea that this is purely a white thing.
No, that's certainly not true. Folks talk about reverse racism, not to get too far afield, and talk about black racism. Most black racism, like white racism, is directed towards black people. Black people have for a long time tended, like other Americans, to look down on black people. Now, when it turned out that we were looking down on ourselves, it set up the kind of conflicts that have engendered the Black Power and Black Consciousness movement. But racism is more than an attitude. It's probably more correct to talk about the attitude as bigotry or as racistic. But racism is, we use racism to refer to the establishment and perpetuation of institutions that exist on the basis and exist with the notion that skin color allocates to some people privileges and exempts and takes from other people rights. By racism, we mean the exploitation of people on the basis of race. When we refer to an organization as being racist, that organization might be one that contains white people. An organization is not racist.
Okay, so now remember, this is 1969. So a lot has developed since 1969, but even to hear that kind of dialogue and language was like, what? Because, you were dealing with civil rights. You were dealing with, turn the other cheek and a bunch of other stuff. And anyway, so this was very profound. This was very progressive at that time. So we have one more clip, and then we're going to see if the family has any questions or comments. But I'm going to tie this into Black August in a minute. Okay. But I want you to hear how we're proceeding with certain things based on history. We need to now have conversations in the 21st century with these various institutions about this issue of enslavement. We cannot just sit back and act like they weren't involved. They were. And people need to understand to what extent. You can't sit in a house of worship and then not deal with some of the hypocrisy or some of the fallacies or whatever. We can't continue to do that. And so at least let's have a conversation about it. So Brother Lumber, check your email again. We are now going to, I want to introduce to everyone who you just heard. His government slave name is Max Stanford. Oh, and over the years, of course, he has transformed from, and you just heard his name, Kenyatta, but he has transformed from that to now Dr. Muhammad Ahmed. He's retired now. He was a professor at Temple University, and his history is very interesting, to say the least. So you just heard the voice of one who was known as Max Stanford. Okay. And as you could see, again, yesterday was in fact his born day, which we gave him a shout out last night as a result of that, right? Now, the thing that I want to point out is if you scroll down, let's see, if you want to scroll down a little bit Okay, founding the Revolutionary Action Movement, RAM. Okay, now that was 1961. This is when students were very involved in the movement, the 50s and definitely in the 60s. And so a lot of what we now see today came as a result of students, including Black Studies Department, the hiring of more professors, teachers, and curriculum, and a whole bunch of stuff. That came about because of students. So we have to ask ourselves today, we talk about what's going on with students and young adults today, but we also have to ask, what are we asking them to do today? What are we showing them to do today, particularly when it comes to issues, you see? So again, these are critical analysis that we're going to start getting more into at another time. As you can see, it says the founding of Revolutionary Action Group movement called RAM in 1961, an off-campus chapter of the Students for Democratic Society, DS, called Challenges were formed by students from Central State College. According to Stanford, Stanford possessed no basic ideology. Okay, so the whole thing is, again, students begin to interject different concepts. Now, at some point, of course, as we heard during this week, Queen Mother Moore was a communist. And so at some point, she was kind of involved in that. And then, of course, she grew out of that and left that alone. Well, so be it with some of the students, because there was no Black ideology at that time that was really, available beyond a certain point. There was a little bit of Pan-Africanism, but again, that was kind of more into your intellectual world. It wasn't amongst the people. And so people kind of grabbed onto things that were a little more available. But then later, it developed into Black nationalism. They left the white stuff alone and, went on into the direction that, of course, people like Brother Malcolm and so forth. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of information and scroll down a little bit, because that brings us into Black August. And you will see COINTELPRO. Starting from 1956. Now pay close attention to this, family, because this stuff is going on right now and it's going to get worse. But let's go back to this. Starting from 1956, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, began the covert COINTELPRO campaign to infiltrate, discredit, and disrupt organizations which were considered subversive. RAM was one of the groups targeted by the program, and Stanford was even referred to as the most dangerous man in America by J. Edgar Hoover. In 1966, Stanford was arrested in New York along with 15 other RAM members accused of conspiring to assassinate NAACP leader Roy Wilkins and the Urban League's Whitney Young. Stanford was acquitted of the charges and returned to Philadelphia to establish the Black Guard, a youth and self-defense wing of RAM. We're going to stop there. Now, this is the kind of things that our people were doing. People talk about stuff today and it's just conversation. When our people actually stepped up and did some things. So I'm going to stop there. So again, our brother Max Stanford, aka Dr. Muhammad Ahmed, was in fact a political prisoner. He was acquitted, but he had to go through that process. And I sat with him, and I could tell you it was brutal. It was, I mean, the things that they sent him through and others. So, you know. Okay, I'm going to stop there. Any comments, thoughts?
All right. Let's open the floor up and let me bring folks back up onto the main stage to see if there's any questions or comments. All right. And to see if there's any questions or comments coming from our lives as well. Okay. All right. All right. So for myself, it's a little bit disheartening, you know, that some of the actual movements, some of the actual actions, the practical applications of these things have not been able to continue. Some of that, the baton has been dropped. And so I believe it is definitely on some of our shoulders. Of course, it would be more conducive if there was a more collective, concerted effort. But of course, those who are in the know, having certain knowledge and information, are definitely tasked more so with that responsibility. Okay, so we want to make sure that we're able to spread far and wide this information so that others can actually be privy. Because unfortunately, one of the elements and aspects that has occurred is that this information has not been shared from those who know and have known of the information and who are in some of these organizations, entities, and institutions. All right, so we want to make sure here on New Day Resurrection Liberation that we're sharing this information with the masses of our people. All right, so they can be informed, so they can begin to engage, and so they can be empowered. All right, reigniting some of that spirit of freedom and liberation that came from our ancestors and some of our elders to this day. Okay. Another brother that comes to mind is Baba Mukasanada. Okay. So if you're not familiar with that brother, definitely, look him up as well. Okay. So, definitely is incumbent upon us to do our due diligence and to do our proper research. And once again, to be more than woke, all right, to actually get engaged, to get active, and to stay active. All right. Now, everyone cannot, and some will not be on the front lines. Okay, but there is a plethora of ways that you can still support. One of those ways is simply by sharing the information, family. Okay. Having, we have so many apparatus, so many vehicles in order to do so now with having the social media, email, sex, and so on and so forth. That's at the very base fundamental levels. Then, you could also have study groups, workshops, forums to be able to share, disseminate this information. Okay, so that's just some of the fundamental and preliminary things that can be done. If you cannot or will not, or are not able to be directly engaged and active in some of these types of initiatives. All right, so a lot of the leg work, a lot of the preliminary work has already been done for us, by our ancestors and by our elders. All right, so once again, it's incumbent upon us in order to do our part so we're not passing on more of a load and more of a burden onto the next generations, family.
Okay. So again, to help connect some of the dots. So Brother Baba Max Stanford, aka Dr. Muhammad Ahmed, was a student of Queen Mother Moore. Okay, when Queen Mother Moore lived in Philadelphia, he also came under the tutelage of Queen Mother Moore. So again, we are giving you information that is historic as well as connective, because there was in fact a movement, and the movement was in such a way that it was like that extended family feeling and reality. Okay, and so it's important that we, give you some examples of some of the things that we're talking about doing, and relate that to, again, from a historical perspective. So, okay, so we're going to close that segment out, and again, ask if there's any questions or comments before we give you some updates on what's going to be happening with Ubuntu for tomorrow and what we're looking to happen during the rest of the month. Any questions or comments? Okay. Okay, Sister Sheila, Sister Shekmet, either one of you have a question or comment? Alrighty. Okay, then let us go to tomorrow. We want to remind everyone again that the time for our Ubuntu weekly session has changed. So, Brother Muma, want to tell them a little bit about that?
Yes, indeed. All right, so that's tomorrow, family. That is at 3 p.m. All right, Eastern Standard Time for the Ubuntu Justice Initiative. All right, which is a coordinating and organizational meeting, so that we can make sure that, in part, to coordinate for our August the 23rd kickoff. All right, in New York, where we'll be holding our press conference, and also, as was previously indicated, being able to give our salute to the 123 countries that was able to ratify the declaration from the United Nations that came from the African Union. Okay, and the declaration that the transatlantic slave trade and chattel slavery was the gravest crime against humanity. All right, highlighting aspect of genocide and human rights violations. Okay, now as we know, human rights violations has uh, no statute of limitations. All right, so in that manner, these grievances can still be held, and aspects of reparatory justice can still be issued. Okay, so we want to make sure that we are, saluting this effort. This is a groundbreaking declaration, and for us to be able to connect with those countries in the furthering of gaining reparatory justice, all right, aka reparations. All right, so we're going to be having that press conference again, and that salute to those 123 countries, August the 23rd. This upcoming few weeks. All right, so around that and surrounding that, we want to put some calls out for those who want to be involved in the message from the grassroots. A special note and thanks of appreciation to those 123 countries. Okay, as well as if you want to have your name, organization, entity, institution listed in that correspondence as well. All right. So we want folks to be able to participate in that manner. This is just some fundamental things that individuals can do to get more involved. Okay, and to make sure that we are pushing forward collectively as it pertains to obtaining reparations and reparatory justice. Okay, as as our ancestor Saint Queen Mother Moore has taught us and told us, they owe us. Okay, go and get your money, honey. All right, so we want to make sure that we are heeding those words and being able to utilize, some of these acts and declarations in order to further that movement.
All right, absolutely. The other thing that you will hear us talk about or announce on August the 23rd is the installment process that we will be kicking off starting in October this year in preparation for the 30-year of course, the 30-year anniversary of MWM next year, which also is the 30-year anniversary of Saint Queen Mother Moore's ascension into ancestral realm. And so next year, we're looking to begin what we call the installment process. And that means, begin to put the call out to artists. The artists that particularly work with wood, because we want to have her stool or stools commissioned. Okay, and so the idea of installment is what it sounds like. There are specific types of stools that are utilized in ceremonies or in certain types of recognition things, and we want two in particular, one for the U.S. and one for Ghana. So the installment process will entail, the placing of the stool in a specified location. It helps to develop the ancestral shrine energy. And so it'll be connected to what one of her last wishes were. And that was to have a sort of institution that was dedicated and committed to remembering our ancestors. So this is now going to be one of our missions, to fulfill that request, that dream, that vision that she had, to have an institution that would honor ancestors, but that would also provide education and things of that nature. But it had to be something that would certainly honor our ancestors. And so we'll be, giving you some information, or giving folks information about that on the 23rd as well. That will be a national campaign. It will be a fundraiser as well, to make certain that we're able to hire the person or persons that is going to craft the stools, as well as work on the institution that she wanted to have developed. Right. So there will be, fundraising that will go in effect in regards to those things. The other thing you will begin to hear more about is the product line that we're now introducing. We have a preliminary one now available, but there are several others coming. So we'll begin to do mass marketing for those things as well, because again, we want to show our people the capability to be self-determined and independent. And so we're going to be introducing some of the ways that is now going to be put in place. Okay, so that gives you a general idea of what's coming. Of course, again, with this being Black August, every week now we'll be doing some specific things in regards to the areas of Black August in one way or another. Either we will be featuring people who were formerly political prisoners or working in that area of prison reform, etc. And, other things, again, that's relevant to Black August. Okay. So I guess we can get ready to close this one out.
All right. I'm going to see if I can play that clip really quickly from Queen Mother Queen Mother Moore talking about the building of the college. All right, let me come there really quickly. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen.
And while we're waiting for Brother Movement to do that, I want to also let folks know that a part of that ancestral campaign or project will include us planting trees. One of our sister saints, who we will introduce at another time, is known for her work in environment. And the group that she started, they planted over 100 trees. And so we're going to combine some of these elements so that they do connect. And so one of our missions is from a national level, as we develop our chapters nationwide and bring our campaigns into the various cities, because again, for next year, we'll be doing a national tour. We want to see ancestral remembrance sanctuaries, shall we say, and those sanctuaries will also, some of them will also be about planting trees that will be in the name of various ancestors, depending on the city. So it'll be based on the ancestor or ancestors in that city and the history that's connected to them. And so just like in certain places, there are restoration plazas or other kind. We here in Philly, we have different kind of community parks, Malcolm X Park and so forth and so on. We want to see trees planted and an area sectioned off that says, this is an ancestral remembrance location. So that way we have sites in our communities that are representing our ancestors. People can go and sit, meditate, and so forth. The trees will be able to grow, continuously. And again, those trees will be planted in the remembrance of our ancestors. This will be announced on, again, August the 23rd, which is, of course, again, the International Day of the Remembrance of Slavery and its Abolition.
Right.
Well, we want to build there a college of African studies. We want to build a monument to the 100 million Africans who perished in the slave trade, and for those who died since. All the people who died in the struggle. 100 million died in the slave trade, yes.
So that's our Holocaust.
Yes, that's our Holocaust. Holocaust, yes.
All right, this institution that you want to build, the purpose of it will be to educate Black people?
Yes, to educate our people, to help our people to understand, to de-Negroize us. To de-Negroize us, change our minds from European minds. We have no idea the condition that we're in, the psychoneurosis that we suffer. We suffer a terrible, terrible blight. We don't know who we are. We use European names, and we just are comfortable with our condition. We really don't know who we are. We have no idea. We're captive. And we're absolutely comfortable with this situation. Okay. Well, we want to build.
All right. So you heard it from her own mouth, family. The words of the late, great ancestor, Saint Queen Mother Moore. All right. So I just put on the screen as well with our current e-store, all right, that has been launched. So that is the beacongoodsservices.com. All right. So go to the beacongoodsservices.com in order to shop the latest in official MWM merch. Okay. Let me just give y'all a quick preview of the e-store. Okay. So you can go there now. It is live. Celebrate your identity, amplify your voice, promote your power. The Beacon Goods and Services. All right. This is some of the merchandise that is currently available. Okay, with utilizing some of those principles of self-determination, family. All right, so this is one of our fundraising apparatuses. So folks can help support some of this work. All right, some of this movement work, some of these initiatives, so on and so forth. All right, now this we are have been pushing This is a grassroots organization that is funded totally independently. Okay, so all of the productions, the podcasts, emails, texts, so on and so forth. We are not getting paid for this, family. This is all coming straight from the muscle, and coming from our hearts, right, from our souls and our spirits, in continuing the works and legacy of our illustrious ancestors. Okay, so this is one of the ways that you can help to support this movement and to help continue in this work. All right, so currently available. Let's see if I can blow that up a little bit. We have mugs, t-shirts, all right, and other apparel. Okay, so those are available currently. All right, bags, cell phone cases, and so forth. All right, so check it out, family. Check out the catalog, and I love to hear some feedback. All right, um, so I am the rep, and I also developed the site. You know what I mean? So this is the type of work that we're doing, family. All right, so make sure. Well, we hope in the hopes that we will be able to get further support. All right, this is one of the speaking of Queen Mother Moore, one of the Queen Mother Moore tees, Saint Queen Mother Moore. All right, one of the T-shirts that is currently for purchase. Okay, let me see if I can enlarge that. All right. So taking a look here, family, as you can see. All right, all hail the Queen.
All right.
All right. Let me stop my screen share there, family. All right, and again, you can go to thebeacongoodsservices.com. All right, tap in. And again, feedback is welcome. If you have something particularly that you're interested in as far as the design, things of that nature, send me an email. Let me know. I can help to develop it, based on some of the things that you might be interested in as well. All right, with that being said, family, getting ready to close out for this evening.
Brother Lumumba, my apologies. There's one more thing I wanted to share. I mentioned the new saint. If you go to your email, I just want to pull it up briefly because, again, it will connect to August the 23rd. And I forgot to mention that for August the 23rd, we're also planning to begin the process to reissue or to shall we say, ignite the campaign for Mumia Abu-Jamal in regards to the Nobel Prize as well as the Pulitzer. All right. So again, we will begin to provide information about that as well. We attempted to do it here in the U.S. primarily, but now feel that if we look at doing it on an international level, because Nobel Prize is international, by the way, since people were dragging here in the States, we figure we'll utilize what we're doing with the We Charge Genocide, the Black human rights. We'll also put our political prisoners, because that is one of our political prisoner is one of our demands for the We Charge Genocide. So since it is, we might as well do something that is also going to represent that. And so since we had initially worked on having Mumia Abu-Jamal nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize or a Nobel Prize, shall we say, and then also now we're looking at the Pulitzer for literature. Well, now will be the time to begin to introduce that into the international circles. We have a sister who is in Paris, France, of course, who is very much involved in Mumia's case. and have been for years. And that, of course, her name is Julia Wright. Julia Wright is, of course, the daughter of Richard Wright, the famous Richard Wright, native son. And so we plan to work with her more directly in getting, this information circulated about having Mumia Abu-Jamal nominated. And so now, again, we're going to start putting it more into the intellectual world, since some of this stuff does fall into their particular area of things. And so, again, we're going to begin to move this thing forward. So I'm raising that up because, one of the sisters that we'll be introducing for next year as one of our 30 sister saints is a sister by the name of Wangari Maathai. And she, of course, did in fact receive the Nobel Peace Prize. She is the first African woman or woman in Africa to obtain that. And again, her work was not only in environmental, but she also dealt with women's rights, Black women's rights, African women's rights. So it was environmental and justice and Black women's issues. So again, and she and the organization that she started, they did in fact plant more than 1 million trees. So again, we'll be giving you more information about her in our connective campaign with the Sister Saints in order to maximize not only the power, but the productivity. Okay, that's it.
All right. So again, family, for additional information on anything interesting with the website, you can email powerman2282@gmail.com. That's powerman2282@gmail.com for additional information on any of the MWM initiatives, programs, etc., including the upcoming August the 23rd initiative in New York, which also, we are looking for support on that as well. All right. So, for people to support financially. All right. So we can make sure that we have all of the resources that we need in order to get the van and, the other logistical necessities in securing the location, so on and so forth. All right. So, you can email nationalmwm@aol.com. That's nationalmwm@aol.com. You can also text 267-636-3802. The number again is 267-636-3802. You can donate at the Cash App $HOT1111. Again, that's $HOT1111 at Cash App. And you can also donate through PayPal. All right, through NBHR Project at gmail.com. That again is NBHR Project at gmail.com for PayPal. All right, that is everyone. We'll close out for this evening. Thank you once again, everyone, for your participation and continued support. That being said, I want to thank first and foremost the Most High Creator Creators. I want to give thanks to the ancestors and the elders, those who have shed blood, sweat, and tears and paved the way to allow us to be here today. I want to thank you all. Thank you for your time, energy, and effort, dedication, determination, and discipline. I bid you all truth, justice, peace, love, freedom, prosperity, patience, and divinely principled purpose. I want to say, let us continue to strategize, organize, and mobilize. And finally, family, I want to say, Pamoja Tutashinda, which means together we will win. All right, peace and love, family. Until next time.
Ashe.